Gentlemen, thanks for joining me to discuss another news story this week that is coming out. This is a topic we've been talking a lot about. In this case, it's employees headed back to the office. This is a recent study from Unispace that found that 72% of employers worldwide have return to office mandates in place. It's no longer a request or a pretty please. In the
Yeah, but
last
Steve,
two,
I thought Office died.
yeah, well, apparently it's come back from the grave. Unispace is reporting 75% of companies increased their commercial real estate footprint in the last 2 years. But
Wow.
employees are not thrilled, with 51% being reluctant to return. But apparently the tougher job market is giving employers more power here. And also the fact that it's tough for them to sell or sublease the office space. So now they've got this asset on the books that they need to use or not get any value whatsoever out of. We're not surprised that Office isn't dead, but a few of your thoughts now that we're starting to see some data backing that up.
Look, I think the truth is that we've said it a
It's
billion
about
times.
damn time.
Yeah, and we've said it a billion times. Office didn't die. Yeah, it's changed some, sure. Ironically, you hit something. Is not only did they not get rid of their footprint, they increased their footprint. And that's because they're trying to look at the health standards of their employees. Like maybe we're getting more space, maybe they're getting bigger offices so that they feel like they are at home and they have some flexibility. They're not confined to a small space with no window. I mean, there's a
I would,
lot of
yeah.
reasons.
Go on,
I
Zach.
mean, we were, I think, talking about this years ago during, the heights of the pandemic, 2020 and 21. And Ian, what came out of that was the co-working space, the will split time where one employee's in, another employee's out, and then they'll swap. It was all, no one wants to share the same space anymore. Everyone needs their own space, right? So I can have a desk for you, and then Steve, I can have a desk for you, and then I need a desk for myself. And each one of us might only be in the office 3 days a week, but there's no sharing. You need more space. You have to house these people and make them happy where they're comfortable coming in for their own health
Well,
and their own mentally and
Well,
physically.
I want to build on that because I think that's a great point because you listen to a lot of the news articles and what you think is there was this sudden shift to people not coming in the office. That's not true. Some of this was focused more on the bigger companies, certain portions of the economy, but even with those companies, it was much more of a shift to hybrid. Them not coming in as much, which gets to your point. If they're still coming in, they still want their space, and hybrid was never going to save as much space as the percentage occupancy would suggest it would for exactly the reasons you're throwing out. The other thing I would say this particular study didn't touch upon, but I think we're having here is that move to the suburbs. I mean, that's certainly what I'm seeing in Silicon Valley is San Francisco's really gotten hit hard, but the suburbs are doing pretty well. And I think that's partly of the millennials getting older, doing family formation. It was fun in your single years to be in urban cores. I've been beating the drum also on social policy, making some of those urban centers less fun to be in. I think that's true, but I think we are also seeing a move to the suburbs, a different office, an office that maybe is more multi-use, is maybe an easier commute, and maybe you're not in it as much. And I think some of these workplaces want to also have an office that's, um, more attuned to those employees. So I think we're seeing changes in office, but no, it's not dead.
well, I'd add to it just to your San Francisco comment. Maybe it's that people just don't need a bajillion-dollar office to house their tech company. They could use less, get more, and still provide the same amenity base. And maybe somebody's got to drive there, but I think to some degree, maybe it's still a business. You still want your employees to be happy, but it's still a business, and you gotta be efficient. And interestingly, in saying the efficiency side, having one person in and then one person the next week, those two people are probably collaborating on projects, and you create some inefficiency by always laddering when somebody's in and when somebody's out. Um,
Well,
you know,
I'll leave you with one other thought or one last thought that I had, and it's an old thought, and sometimes the old ones are the best ones. But it was called third space, right? Third space was originally where you're at home and you're at work, and where's your third space? And it was a retail term. It was like your Starbucks or your store or anything. It was
Yeah.
experiential. That's what people want. They want a third space. At this point, they want a second space. They realize how much they like the third space. They no longer want to go to the second space. Hell, I don't even know what happens to residential if people don't start building cooler houses. But the second space, the office, it doesn't die, but you change it. You make it more experiential, you make it better, you make it fun, you throw the dollars at it. And that's why suburban works, right? Because they're building those spaces, they're throwing the dollars at it, and people want to drive from their house to their office that is closer by, that's easier to get to, and has some of these newer and nicer amenities that people aren't throwing the money downtown.
Well, it also just dawned on me as well, theoretically, the discussion of employees being mad about going back to the office. Well, to some degree, if you think about it, if you're always working from home, there's no way for you to ever leave your work. At some point, you can't just say, "Hey, sorry, I'm not at the office. Hey, I'm sorry, I don't have my computer. Hey, I'm sorry, I'm not working." And it basically becomes rude because you're telling some client, "Screw you, I'm not going to do it because I just don't feel like it."
Well, I think, what I really would really go to that is going to be something that's just driving everything is quality of life. I mean, I'm always using those words, but I think this really comes down to people like flexibility, people like convenience. Jeff, I talked last week about a story about a New York office building that went for a very good, solid price, but it was premium property, and we're seeing some of the lower end stuff really get beat up. I think we're just going to be in a world where, you know, amenities matter, quality matters, and if you don't pick properties that score pretty high, you could be in some trouble because I think that the days of just stuffing people in a lot of boxes, those days are gone. It's high-end properties are going to be able to work. Properties like what you're pointing to, Zach, where there's a lot of different amenities. The flexibility is going to matter. I think those are really the bigger drivers rather than some simple story of everybody's going to be working from now on. It's forgive the language. It's just BS. There's a lot of factors that go into here, but I think we could almost put
Forgive
all
your
of it under
language, Steve.
quality of life. Yeah.
You
Well,
use 2 letters. You didn't even say a bad word. Like, sorry,
I-
I'm going to say P and Q right now. It's like,
yeah,
oh my
I don't
gosh.
want YouTube algorithms getting angry at me if I start talking the way I have about some property deals we're working, guys. So I'm trying to be a good boy here.
Well, let's be honest though, too. The other side is, is monetary efficiency from the side of these businesses. They can get a lot more with less and get more amenities like you're talking. Why not go to suburban? Why be in New York City if you don't need to?
Yeah,
Well, that's the point. Your rate per square foot. I mean, I'm allowed to put more of my own money as the tenant into the space because I'm not paying 40, 50, 60 bucks a foot. I'm paying 20, 30, 40 bucks. So I'm comfortable spending this money, making my space better for me and for my employer. So there is a big push that we're seeing, and it seems to make a lot of sense.
yeah. Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.